Hey beautiful. In today's video, I'd like to share with you some thoughts I've been having, some experiences I've been having along my spiritual journey with regard to ego integration as a really deep and profound form of spiritual healing, holistic healing, truly holistic body, mind, and spirit healing in the aftermath of trauma. So let's go right into it. I use the word, it's ego integration, and you may be thinking ego and have all these ideas about what is ego. And I'd like to start by defining what I mean by the word ego. So when I'm talking about the ego, I mean the parts of the personality, parts of the human personality, such as hobbies, music, art, interests, tastes, preferences, passions, our appearance, our gender, femininity, masculinity, sexuality, ways of relating and expressing self, ways of relating to others, and ways of relating to the world. So that is what I am talking about when I say ego in this context, in this video. And trauma, when I say that word, again, that's a really loaded, juicy word with a lot of different connotations, which may evoke certain images and ideas in you. And what I mean by the word trauma is an event or relationship dynamic that damages the ego. Abuse of self, by self, of others, by others. Any kind of abuse would be a traumatic situation, as well as traumatic events, traumatic relationships. So, trauma often creates the experiences of fear, of shame, guilt, which often then lead to problematic ways of coping, such as numbing ourselves out, addictions, and other toxic coping styles, so as not to feel the pain and to create a sense of safety, even as that safety becomes a type of personal prison, a very limiting space from which to express ourselves, connect with others, and live our lives. So, what I'm finding on my healing journey is that healing, a big part of my healing, is actually integrating the parts of my ego, which I just described to you, that were shamed, suppressed, guilted, abandoned out of fear, out of all the shame. I was just like traumatized, and then I gotta get rid of that, or I gotta change, or I gotta forget about that, or I gotta push that down. I can't feel that. I can't think about that. I need to block that out. I need to create some separation, some distance. I need to numb that out. So instead of doing that, instead of like building and constructing this fortress, this protective space around me, instead it's like kind of inviting aspects of the ego back in, exploring these aspects of personality, of appearance, of hobbies, interests, tastes, preferences, even music, the way I express myself, the way I relate to people, the way I connect with people, really exploring that more fully, diving into that more fully, and seeing where I've fractured myself off from expressing in maybe the most full or authentic way that I would like to. Maybe in terms of I expressed myself that way before the traumatic event. And maybe I want to look into that and see, is that still me? How does that feel? How can I take aspects or elements of that way of expressing myself and embody that now? How can I take even certain activities that, I in the aftermath of trauma I did not allow myself to do anymore? Are those activities fun for me still? Like, am I still interested in that thing, or that interest, that passion? Is it still important to me? So really exploring a lot of that and allowing myself the space to use discernment, use good judgment, and see what can be reclaimed. What is mine? What do I want to bring forward in my life? What was fractured and splintered off and, yeah, maybe needs to be left behind, but what was left behind and, can still be a healthy, enriching part of my ego, my personality, the way I show up in the world. Yeah, so I also want to mention ahimsa. So, if prior to a trauma you had a significant, powerful interest in raping or harming other people or harming yourself, and you stopped doing that because you were imprisoned or something. I'm taking a very extreme example here. I'm not saying, oh, like maybe now's the time to like start reconsidering cutting yourself or something like that. No. I mean, practice ahimsa. And what I mean by ahimsa is nonviolence, not hurting yourself and not hurting others. So, doing this ego exploration and reintegration from a grounded space of kindness and of compassion, of love, of positivity, of playfulness, of light. So, you're exploring the shadow realm, shining a flashlight rather than, taking these elements of shadow and allowing them to still be dark. It's an exploration of the shadow through the shadow to see what light remains on the other side of the shadow and seeing if you want to bring that into your present space. I hope that metaphor, that languaging made some sense. So, what I mean is to begin expressing yourself more fully, to give, I'll just talk in terms of first person. So, giving myself a chance to be me, give yourself a chance to be you. Drop out of this narrow straitjacket, this cocoon, it's been called in Tibetan Buddhist and Shambhala Buddhist teachings. This comfort zone, it's also called. So we create these comfort zones, these cocoons, these little safety ways of being and relating to our world in the aftermath of trauma, to help us survive. So instead of just, living in that tight little constricted space, start pushing those boundaries out and seeing what can be brought in and how that space can actually be made larger and enjoyed more fully. So, really exploring the boundaries of this mold you created for yourself out of shame, guilt, fear, and others' expectations, social pressure, whatever. Chances are good that no one else put you into it. You simply created it in the aftermath of a trauma. So starting to take responsibility, and I'm not here victim blaming either, taking responsibility of your response to the trauma, not saying you're responsible for the trauma, if that makes sense. Little fine, important distinction there. But taking responsibility for, oh, I created this like my own little straitjacket world, and I want to start exploring what's beyond it. And, maybe that music I listened to before the traumatic relationship or even during the traumatic relationship, maybe that is something that still can feel good now. Or maybe this interest I had before that traumatic experience, maybe it still feels good to explore that interest in a healthy, conscious, awake kind of space, or elements of sexuality, any of these elements of ego. But again, being very grounded in ahimsa, of the intention not to harm oneself, and be really honest about, is this harming me or not? And of course, not harming others, being kind, being compassionate, being grounded in whatever kind of ethical system feels aligned for you. So, also, very important part is get help when needed. There are a myriad, a plethora of ways to heal. People with whom you can heal, healing modalities, healing relationships. I mean, there's so much. I mean, Crystal friend right here. Like, come on, it's everywhere. Health coach right here. About to be Reiki trained also. Yoga as a tool, psychotherapy as a tool, 12-step work as a tool, different, religious and spiritual practices and faiths and communities can be tools and parts of your healing journey. So there are many different ways in which to heal. This is just one that I'm noticing is happening on a day-to-day basis, and I'm getting a lot of richness out of this process. And, articulating that process in this video helps me then kind of refine and hone and think about my process, because that's something I really like to do and constantly be reflecting on, so I can understand it better, so I can share what I learn that is working. And this seems to be a big part. So ego integration in the aftermath of trauma, seeing what's there, what can be integrated into the present day light, and not just shamed into shadow because of a past trauma, if it still has light and will help you hold and shine more light out into the world. So those are my thoughts on this topic. I would love to hear what you think. Please leave a comment, like this video if you like it, subscribe for more, click the bell for notifications. I am releasing new videos every single day. I'm on a roll, y'all. Please also leave a comment if you have a particular question or topic you would like for me to address. And again, as always, much love to you. Feel free to reach out. Taylor@joyfulrawlife.com. Taylor@joyfulrawlife.com if you're interested in working together. Much love to you. Take care. Namaste.